Hello quilters, welcome to this episode of the Tulips Bloom Quilt. In this episode we're going to look at quilting. So we are nearly there with our quilt. We're going to talk about thread, what type of quilting that we can do. I'm also going to talk about stitch length as well. But first, make sure you give your sewing machine a good clean and change that needle. Let's get quilting. We are now ready for quilting, and what I like to do is audition my threads. So I've pulled out a bunch of threads that I think might work, and as you can see I like Aurifil. So I'm looking at two different weights here, and I'm looking at the 40 weight thread and the 28 weight thread. I think this is going to be too light, so I'm just going to get rid of that one. Grey is always a safe bet, goes over most colours, but I'm not going to go with that. I pulled out a pink. This is a 28 weight thread. I use this quite a lot, this pink, but no, I'm not happy with that. Then we have black, but I really don't want to quilt in black. I don't like quilting with black. This pink here is absolutely perfect for this Moda Bella Solid raspberry colour, but I think it's too bright against the black or the charcoal and the green, so I'm sort of left with two now. Again, I use this green quite a lot, but I think I'm going to go with this burgundy. It's nice and dark against the charcoal, it works with the green, and it definitely works with the raspberry. Before I start quilting, I'm going to do a bit of prep work. I'm going to get my sewing machine cleaned out, I'm going to change the needle, and I'm going to wind around about 3 bobbins, which is what I think I'll need for this particular project. For this particular project, I'm using a 40 weight Aurifil thread, and they recommend that I use a 90-14 needle. So I'm just putting in a brand new needle, ready to start quilting. Get that tightened up nicely. Right, we are nearly ready to go. I'm going to do a simple cross-hatch quilting for this particular quilt, and I am going to change my needle placement so it sits in the middle of my foot, and then I'm going to change my stitch length, and I'm going to do a 3.5mm stitch length. So I've cleaned my sewing machine out, and I've put a new needle in, I've got new threads, new fresh bobbin, and I always test out. As you can see, this is my test piece, and I like to test out my stitches first, because there's just nothing worse than getting started and realising that your tension's not right or something's pulling. So this is what I do. So I'll just try and find a gap here somewhere. I need another bit. So I've got the correct stitch length that I want. I'm going to check the back as well to make sure that that's okay. I'm happy with that. Tension's good. So let's crack on and get quilting. And just one more thing to add before I move off from this is that I do this every time I change the bobbin, or if I've walked away and switched the sewing machine off and I come back and switch everything back on, I test it again, even though nothing will have changed. It just gives me that little bit of peace of mind. If you're new to quilting, I would definitely recommend getting some decent quilting gloves. So I have got these gloves with the fluffy, but they're well used. I got these from Swan Amity, and they are just brilliant. So if you're in the States, you can get them directly from Swan. I will try and remember to put a link below in the description, but they have touchscreen. So if you've got a screen like mine on your sewing machine, you don't need to take your gloves off. Also, you can use these, and it's like a suede feel, but it's not suede. And then there is this great wrist support here. So if you're doing a lot of quilting, which I'm planning to do now, then they're definitely worth it. Right, I think we're ready. Let's get started. So I am going to go from corner to corner. I've tested out that everything's working okay, and I'm doing a simple cross hatch. I do eyeball mine. However, there's lots of different markers that you could use. The Hero marker by Clover is very good. My sister-in-law likes to use that quite a lot. If you're new to quilting, keep stopping and adjusting. Don't think you've got to do it all in one go. Move your hands, take your time. I like to stop normally at one of the cross points. I've quilted a quarter of the Tulips Bloom, started in the middle and I worked my way across that way. Now I've just turned it around and I'm going to work across here and get the rest of these rows done. A little tip, keep checking the back of your fabric to make sure that you've got no ripples. If you've basted it well, then you shouldn't have, but there are times when that fabric can get a little bit loose and you might just get a little ripple in the back, and there's nothing worse than that when you've got to start unpicking. You can see here that I've quilted one way and I've done this across the quilt, and now I'm going to turn it around and I'm going to start quilting this way. Thanks again so much for watching. We are nearly at the end of our quilting journey for the Tulips Bloom quilt. If you like this episode, you know what to do, and don't forget to subscribe at Rope and Anchor Trading Co.